Welcome to the Veterans Archives podcast, where we honor our nation's veterans by preserving and sharing their stories. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Wreaths Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m. To learn more about our mission, watch veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. Today is Friday, April 17th, 2026. We're talking with William Bill Atkinson, who served in the United States Navy Reserve. So good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me at your house today.
Thank you.
All right. We'll start out with the first question, and that is, when and where were you born?
I was born in 1938 in Lansing, Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you live in Lansing?
I lived in Lansing up until 1970.
Oh.
Unfortunately, pretty much every house I lived in is now tore down. Progress is available there. I lived in the area of General Motors.
Mm-hmm.
The reason for there is that all the way up till the time my dad retired, he worked at Oldsmobile. He wanted to be able to walk to work. So we always lived in that neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
The corner of, at that time, was St. Joe and Birch.
Yep.
It is no longer called St. Joe and Birch, it's St. Joe, and they tore the house out to build 496. So I lived in that development area.
Okay. A lot of houses went away when they put 496
They've made a documentary on that, and it was, they even moved the dirt. And I kind of disagree with some of that, but then again, in order to get the grant for it, I know the reasons for it.
Right.
I peddled newspapers in that area. At one time when I was in high school, I peddled the largest state journal route in the city of Lansing, 158 customers. Today, there's only 3 houses left.
Gosh.
In that area, and that's because of the highway and General Motors.
Right.
They took out that.
Right.
And I give that, well, when I got into high school, I ended up delivering a free press route also. And the journal found out about it and says you can't do both.
Pick one or the other, huh?
One was morning, one was afternoon. It worked very well for me. So I picked the free press route mainly because most of them were paying at the office and I didn't have to collect.
Yeah.
And that was in the vicinity of Sexton High School, which was basically a better neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I went from the journal route as a carrier for our AOLs. When I moved up into the Heatherwood area up around Eastern or Sexton, I peddled a mare, and I can remember one story. The second week I was peddling, I went to the one house that I carried the paper for, and a gentleman come to the door, and I says, "Collect for the State Journal," and he says, "Sonny," he said, "I don't pay for the journal." Come to find out, he was managing editor of the State Journal. And I peddled a paper there. I figured he owed me money. But,
right.
There are just kind of some interesting stories there. But
Yeah.
get to meet a lot of neat people that way, too.
Yeah.
So,
Now, where did you go to school?
I went to Main Street School. Well, I started out at Lincoln.
Uh-huh.
And at the time I left Lincoln, I think there was only 3 white boys or white children at that school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Main Street, and that building is still there. From there to West Junior, from there to Sexton, but I graduated from Sexton and Tech. I graduated out of the Tech school, 2-year program, but I only went there 1 year because it's the senior year I was on co-op.
Mm-hmm.
Already wasn't supposed to be, but I was on co-op. Michigan State University. Worked for Michigan State University for 43 years.
Oh, my gosh.
And told a lot of people I went there 43 years and never graduated.
Well, so did you have brothers and sisters growing up?
I have one sister
Uh-huh.
and no brothers.
Okay.
No brothers. A younger sister. She has since passed.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. So you were the oldest then?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I had an older sister, and that was a whole different dynamic. But yeah. So how was it growing up? I mean, it sounds like you had a great childhood. You delivered papers. You went to school. How was it for you?
It was good, but I make a comment today. A few years ago, I run across my report cards, And I vowed at that time my grandchildren would never see my report cards because to this day I don't know how I graduated.
Yeah.
And that's part of my story. I truly believe you don't educate until you're ready to educate.
Right.
At that area, and I've done things in my life that have required professionals to do, and I can say, well, I graduated from high school, and I'm very proud of that. And the Navy was a big part of that, and there was another organization that was even more, but the Navy is what set me to that organization. So as we get into the story, I'll tell a little bit more about that.
So you graduated high school and then you went to work directly for Michigan State University then?
I worked for the university as a senior in high school.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it's part of your co-op.
Part of my co-op. So you're supposed to went to high school 4 hours or a half a day, and you went tech school. And like I say, I went out on co-op. Basically, I was still a junior, and I was out working for the university. And the neat thing about it at that time, and my grandkids, for one, don't believe me. But I says, when I started working for Michigan State, I made 50 cents an hour. But I was driving my own brand new car as a senior in high school.
Yeah.
So I had worked a number of jobs even before that. I worked in a drugstore. I worked in a salvage yard, and still peddling newspapers. I peddled newspapers up to a senior in high school.
Okay.
And which was very nice because it helped me peddle newspapers.
Yeah.
I didn't have to ride my bike anymore.
That's right. One of the few lucky ones that when I peddled newspapers, I peddled them because I peddled them on a bike. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I did that. We had a young friend, and he ended up owning his own company in Wisconsin. And we were in the area one day, and I called, and I said, Kerry, he says, what's that? He says, who is this? And I said, I won't tell you, but I tell you what, if you pick up for me, I'll pay you a penny a paper. And I used to ride my bike and throw the papers on the porch from the bike.
Yeah.
If I made the porch, I paid him to stop, pick it up, put it up on the porch. And there were days that he didn't get any money. And I won't tell you what he told me, but just some of those thoughts still come back to me.
Yeah.
And there's other thoughts that I do have problems with. And I was going through, I kept a log when I was in the service. And I look at those, I kind of reviewed them last night, and I'm looking at it, I said, those things don't tell me anything. But I've got some memories that, were there. And it's just like calling Kerry and telling him, and he knew exactly who it was.
Right. So what did you do at Michigan State then? As part of your co-op, and then
the co-op, and what the training that I got was in printing at that time.
Okay.
Lansing Tech had printing. There were 3 from my class that were there, and there were 2 or 3 from Eastern. We did basically printing for the school district. If it was form somebody needed, they went there. We printed there. We had a large cylinder press which printed newsletters for Eastern and the newsletter for Sexton. Well, Sexton went half a day and Eastern went the other half a day. When the paper come over, whoever was working at that day got it. So we did our chances to sabotage their paper, and they did. So we tried to work it in such a way that we got it there in time enough to get it. So it was printing trade. Went to work for Michigan State University in what they at that time called mimeograph department.
Yeah.
And I went out there basically in 1955 when they changed the name from college to university. And my biggest job at that time was setting type for corner cards and letterhead stationery. And I worked from there up until I was promoted into being in the bindery. And the bindery was a one-person operation at that time. And from there back into the press room, run some small presses. They moved and basically moved from the ranks from a small press up to a web press. I was their initial web press operator. From there to printing coordinator, which I traveled around the university to advise as to, how to do a job, or if there was something done wrong, I had to evaluate it, find out what was wrong with it, and make sure that it got fixed. And from there, I went over to Kellogg Center and managed. They had a print shop over there. At one time, there were 4 or 5 print shops on campus.
Right.
And I went over there and run that up until it consolidated back to the main shop. And when that happened, I was pretty much in line to be managers, but because of the move, there was a lawsuit because of discrimination, which held for about 2 years and was thrown out of court because there was no base to it. But it put me in a position I couldn't supervise because those people were still there, and it was a part of the evaluation. The lawsuit was against myself, my boss, his boss, trustees, and the president of Michigan State University. It was a major lawsuit. And so they created a job for me. And I went over to purchasing and was a purchasing agent for printing and printing-related material only, with a stipulation that I save the university enough money to pay my wage. I did that in a period of about 4 months.
Wow.
And I did that for 12 years. And this is one of the areas where I think we had 9 printing agents at that time. And I was the only one, to my knowledge, that did not have a college education. And basically, when I left, they replaced me, but that job is phased out. The printing department is phased out now.
Right.
The division, which was service division, is no longer. That's how progress has changed.
Everything changes, right?
Oh, yeah. And I've really learned that more in the last year. I did have a stroke a year ago, minor stroke, but that's when I started realizing change, and the change was there, and I see it in everything. I'm on the internet, and I found a site which is called Letterpress, and I'm just having a ball with that because I'm seeing machinery I haven't seen in 50 years, and just how that field's changed. When I retired, there was probably about 25 print shops. I think we're down to about 6 now in Lansing.
Right.
The field is, at one time was a big field, and because of technology, it's pretty much gone.
Yeah. A lot of people can just do things at home that they would normally have had a print shop.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like, the church that I go to, I bought it. I didn't buy it. The church bought it, but I'm the one who ordered it 15 years ago, and the copier just basically died. We're now using just an office printer.
Yeah.
And doing more than we could have done on the other machine to start with. So, but they look at me and, what do you know about this? And I'm thinking, I throw more paper away than you've ever seen.
Right.
And it just change.
Yeah.
It's just the change.
Well, and I want to reflect on something else, too. Like you said, your grades weren't great in school. You're surprised you graduated. You didn't go to college, and yet you held these positions. You saved enough money to justify your paycheck, right?
That was nothing.
So I think it really, the grades don't really determine who the person is.
No, like I say, you have to be ready to learn. I made a comment here not too long ago, and when I graduated, I could ask my classmates today, and I'm still active with a number of classmates that are still here. When I was in school, where was the last place you would look for me? And they would, quite often, they would say at the library.
Right.
Would never see me. 3 years ago on Facebook, on my birthday, I received birthday wishes from 5 librarians, all of them head of their library. I mean, and this goes, one of them just passed away here last year. It's the state of Michigan head librarian. Sent me a birthday wish. A fellow in the largest genealogy library, public library, is Fort Wayne, Indiana. Their head librarian on that sent me a wish. The person in charge of the Houston, Texas library sent me one. And I'm thinking to myself, you would never found me anywhere near the library. I was in school, and my marks, the only good marks I had was printing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my interest.
Because you were good. You were interested and you were good at it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got A's in there. I had the same teacher for drafting. He almost flunked me.
Yeah.
It was that thing. My life after service will really show you something I think will really impress you.
So at what point did you join the service then? When did that come into the picture?
I did not get along extremely well with my dad.
Uh-huh.
And I figured, when I graduate, I want to get out of the house. So I joined, I think I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
I had made grade before I got out of school.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I was a seaman before I got out of school. I spent 2 weeks in boot camp, summer boot camp, 2 weeks, but I made my grade.
Right.
When it come time to go in, they said, okay, your reserve program is that you go to meetings up until the time that 6 months after you graduate, or there's certain months, I think it was 6 months, you will go active.
Mm-hmm.
Active is 2 years, and then you will be go back to meetings for the rest of a 6-year obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That didn't work with me. When it come time for me to go, I went in. I left Lansing on Thanksgiving morning.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care if it was a holiday, and because I did not have to go to boot camp, I had made my grade already. I went to Philadelphia, and in Philadelphia, I was there for 3 weeks. Signed my ship, and that was USS Tripoli.
Mm-hmm.
I served my full time on the Tripoli, full time plus a little bit. And the reason for that is at the time I was supposed to be discharged or separated, at that time separated, we were in the middle of the Atlantic. And there was really no way of getting off.
Right.
So the minute we got into port, then they sent me to Pensacola, which was normally a 2-week discharge period. I was out in 3 days
mm-hmm.
because I was over. But they give me the option of going to the meetings or being standby reserve. Standby reserve means that you could get a note and you'd be on 24-hour call.
Yeah.
A Briggs broke out. I got my call. Just have your bag packed, be ready for 24 hours. Well, that never happened, so I could put my bag back in, but I cut the service time. It's still 6-year obligation. So, I retired, or I got out of the service later on.
Mm-hmm.
Never known what was going to happen in the future. But that was my military service aboard ship.
Okay.
All of it was on the Tripoli. The Tripoli was a U.S. Navy ship. You want to get into that now?
Oh,
No.
absolutely. And then and we also want to talk a little bit about what you did there, too.
Okay, yeah. The USS Tripoli was a World War II ship, was decommissioned, was recommissioned in the early 50s, but it was recommissioned as a CVU from a CVE to a CVU. CVU is carrier utility, and they used it quite a bit in the early years, and at that time that was war years, carrying equipment to various sites. Mid-50s or just before I went aboard, they decided they removed all the armament.
Mm-hmm.
When I went aboard, basically they had a 50 caliber machine gun, 2 or 3 M1s, and a half a dozen 45s. All those side mounts, I don't even know what they were because they were gone.
Right.
But I do know that the stern had a 5-inch mount on it. It was a big gun tub, probably about as big as this room, and a little bit smaller. And round, they had the 5-inch mount on it. They pulled that. Well, the skipper at that time got the idea, called the boiler tenders up, the welders, and I want a piece of plate across the front part of this. And we were the only ship in the U.S. Navy with a swimming pool.
Oh.
All right. And since then, I've been involved with the group and talked with the doctor at that time. And he says about 3 weeks, he says, we had a big influx of swimmers here because there's no filtration on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went to the captain and said, Captain, you got to shut that down. And he says, and the engineering officer come up and says, boy, I'm glad you did that. He says, I was afraid to, but he says it changed the integrity of the weight over the fantail because we had all that water in it.
Yeah.
And he says that structurally, he says that wasn't a good idea. So he says, thanks, Doc, for doing it. Doc become a good friend of mine.
Uh-huh.
And I just think, yep, that's part of history. We had a couple, two or three firsts, but we were the first, and I think to this day, probably the only one that had a swimming pool. And we flaunted it because anytime we passed a Navy ship, we were always by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And because we transported aircraft from the United States over and then the derelict aircraft back to the country and went back. So we were transport.
Mm-hmm.
So then they changed the name to a TCVU, which was Transport Carrier Utility. That name never stuck because they never finished it. They decommissioned the ship in 1958.
Mm-hmm.
So that part never left. But there were two of them, the USS Tripoli and the USS Corregidor.
We'll have to
No,
wait till it gets done.
Spam, yeah. And,
Oh, all right. Just 1 second.
So anyway, being by ourselves, the ship had a lot of not what I would call Red Navy.
Uh-huh.
Officers seemed to be coming out of our ROTC program, with the exception of our bridge officers, which needed that in order for them to get their next grade.
Right.
Captain needed it in order to become an admiral. All right. And so forth.
So it's more of a stepping stone.
It was a stepping stone, but outside of that, they were reserve. I think we had a number of them that, believe it or not, bragged that they'd just come out of the brig, or it was not what I would consider at that time. They said Black Shoe Navy,
Mm-hmm.
right? We had a strange crew, but we had a good crew, and we had, I think, about 180 run the ship. I served one trip. Now, I'm going to go back a little bit here. I was in a period of 22 months. I made 10 complete crossings over and back of the Atlantic. So you'll notice what the sign says, traveling T.
Yeah.
The traveling T was because of the number of miles we traveled. But I found out that traveling T tag was put on them in the Second World War, and I still haven't figured out why.
Oh, really?
But the first trip that I took, I was in the deck force,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, this isn't really what I would like to do. So I'm starting to mature very quickly.
Right.
That ain't what I like.
Right. The deck force, that's a special kind of person that does that.
Well, yeah. But I learned things. More or less like seeing a ship. I'll talk about that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So I put in, they had an opening in the quartermaster, for quartermaster. So I put in navigation department.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that. I ended up as a quartermaster, being quartermaster of the watch for every general alarm. If it was just a general alarm, I was quartermaster of the watch.
Mm-hmm.
If it was abandoned ship, quartermaster of the watch. If it was fire, quartermaster of the watch. So the minute the first bell rang, I didn't have to hear what it was. I headed for the bridge. My cleaning station was the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I spent probably, outside of sleeping or in my quarters, probably 80% of my time on the bridge. So I was with the officers.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it. I made a lot of coffee. We had some episodes that were a little bit taxing into that area, but we would United States, Europe, United States, Europe, and we'd just back and forth. Now, I put two yard periods, and one went for 33 or 34 days. The other one went for almost 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Take that off. Now, you got 10 months. So basically, I was making one trip a month over and back. At 17 knots, that's a lot of sea time.
That is.
And we would pull into a port, and we had 3 sections for Liberty. One section would get Liberty because we were the only there overnight. And a lot of the ports of call, that's where they were. They have 3 or 4 aircraft be unloaded. We were ready to go in the morning or in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But everything had happened. One of the things that did happen is that we went aground in the Weser River going into Bremerhaven, Germany. I was on, because I was quartermaster of the watch, I was on the logs. We only had 5 quartermaster. You had more than that in the destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we were quartermaster signalmen. So we did the whole lot there. And we went aground. And what happened is they decided to drop. The weather conditions were bad. We were in a river condition, but there was an area that we could pull off, still enough water. We dropped an anchor, and wind caught us. We snapped the anchor chain. Wind pushed us more. By the time we got the port anchor down, we were aground. And I was on the logs 18 straight hours. And basically that's what I did, is I kept the logs, basically the logs. I had another quartermaster was there just to take care of the duties of the weather watch, taking care of the weather, making coffee, doing this type of thing. But he was one of the new recruits. So basically he was there. My whole task was there to take notes and put in the log. When they sent 6 tugs out to get us. 2 days later, after 3 tugs went aground, they decided it wasn't working. And we did have a deck first class that devised a way of getting us off. And basically it was putting all the tugs on one side and then catching us off. But we had to wait till high tide to do it.
Right.
And so because of that, the crew was very happy because they put us in dry dock to examine us for damage, this type, to retrieve our anchors, to put on new anchor chains, get us fit. And that took 8 or 10 days. Most of that I was confined to the ship because the captain was going to set through a board of inquiry, and he wanted to go through all the notes.
Oh, yeah.
To go through all the notes on that, he wanted me aboard ship. So finally their day come where he's going to let me go on launch or go on Liberty. Went on Liberty, a bunch of us there, and we got in a couple scrapes. We didn't get along
sailors will.
We didn't get along with the Marines that well. And ended up in the police station investigating. But anyway, by the time I got back to the ship, I was AWOL for an hour. The captain left message as soon as Bill comes aboard ship, I want to see him in my stateroom. 2:00 in the morning, I went in. He asked me one question. I answered the question. And I figured, well, I'm going to be on report. Never heard a word.
Wow.
But I sat in front of that board of inquiry for 4 hours answering questions. And that was quite an episode also, was set through a formal. Now, the captain was Captain Larson. I've got a couple of books that Captain Larson was mentioned. Not too good. He was an All-American football player for the Academy. He had an uncle who was a senator. He was basically a log-in for an admiral. Because of that episode, he did not get it.
Right.
He was liked so well, his family didn't even attend his funeral, from what I've read. But that going aground is what stopped him from happening. And the reason is because we were in restricted waters. We had a pilot aboard, and the pilot recommended 2 hours before that we drop anchor, and he says no. The reason that we went into Weser, we had to go through a lock, we had to go through at high tide, and he wanted to make it. And we didn't make it.
You got to listen to the pilot, because that's why you have the pilot on board.
And I got to know him pretty well. I'm talking with him one time, Captain Arnold. Where are you from? He says, Wigan, England. I says, what? He says, Wigan, England. He says, why? I said, my dad's from Wigan, England.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, my dad come over from England as a young boy. But he said, well, if you ever get up to Wigan, look me up. Well, by the time I got there, He had passed.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was our pilot at that time. And being on a bridge, you got to associate with some people. You could tell stories that in the deck force you would never had. You would have been
Right.
freezing on the forecastle.
Right. Yeah. With your sound-powered phone headset on and your big jacket. And,
we had, we were independent. We were in Naples. And like I said, we had a skeleton crew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we went into port, you still had your 8 o'clock reports. And the division head or his appointed would serve on that report, right? And we went at 8 o'clock report. Now, I didn't get any higher than a seaman because I didn't want to get any higher than a seaman. And they called O&N division officer to the quarterdeck. So I went down, seaman starts, and there was, I don't know, two or three petty officers. A couple of them were first class, and they wanted to send a message. The fleet was anchored in the bay.
Mm-hmm.
We were portside because they unloaded. And they said, we want to send a message. I says, how you want to send a message? Well, radio. I said, Radio Shack, sit down. Well, first of all, they challenged me as being the division officer.
Right.
I said, well, I'm it, And, well, we want to talk to your petty officer. I'm it. But I got time I committed early with. So they said, I want to send a message by radio. They had something they had to communicate out there. I said, nope, I just can't do that. He says, well, you could use yard arm, but you're far enough out, you're not going to see the yard arm lights to send code. Well, we'll use flashing lights. I said, you can't do that. So why? He says, we dropped our adapter overboard.
Oh, no.
Anyway, they left. They never did get their message sent. But every answer they had, I had some reason why they couldn't do it. What is that? And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, because we had our reports. There was probably 5 black shoes there and no officers.
Yeah.
And I know we had a visitation, and it was one of the bigger ships, and they come aboard, and it was their engineering officer, and he was a full commander.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant J.G. so-and-so, would you come down? He was the head of our engineering division, and he's meeting with this near admiral. And I know, boy, we're a tramp ship,
Right.
But good delivery. And when we got to places, you only got one day. There was a couple of boards we might have been. Bremerhaven, Germany, usually 2 or 3 days, because that was our refueling point. And we went there every time we went in the North Sea. The other incident that happened is on our last trip. And this is the reason I was stuck aboard ship when I was supposed to be getting off. We were returning back from Europe, and I can't remember. I could tell you the port. I have the 8 o'clock position of every day I was aboard a ship.
Oh.
And my idea was to get a chart and lug them all, because every trip had a story. Storms or this detail. We went. There was some destroyers that were having problems around the Azores. We headed there to add assistance. Got called off because they didn't need us. But anyway, Beirut broke out. Mm-hmm. And in 58, you're probably before your time here.
Oh, way before my time.
And the United States sent choppers down in Beirut. So what we're going through today is not new.
Right.
That hasn't changed.
The names have changed, but the game is still the same.
Yeah. But they sent helicopters down from Germany to Beirut. But they violated airspace. So it was an international incident. So to pull them out, they told us, turn around. We were about a quarter of the way across the lane. Turn around, refit to pull up that squadron, pull them out of Beirut, back over, and by the time we got to Gibraltar, they flew off Gibraltar and went to Detroit or Germany because they didn't violate any space. But we were there, and I think we were there for like 14 hours. That wasn't long enough to get the medal.
Yeah. So
my 214, I have no medals, because that was even in a time they didn't give the Gita medal.
Right.
Right. So there are no medals involved here. But anyway, the only person allowed on the open decks because they were close enough to shore. They were firearms could be shot at the ship. And so nobody could go out with the exception of the quartermaster of the watch. And I had to go out and log when they left
Yeah.
the ground until they landed on the ship. And that was run in, put it in the log, go back out. And we ended up leaving 2 or 3 on shore because they had been either broken down or something there. So as far as live fire action, that was all I saw in the period there. And by the time we got back, I still had one more duty to do, and I got that done. But it was. I relate my time in the Navy as my growing up period. That's when I started.
Yeah.
All right. I finished it with other activities, which are pretty good.
So I have a question for you then. So when you finally got out of the Navy, then you took the standby option.
I took standby.
So you didn't have to go to meetings or anything. You were just, if they needed you, they called you.
I got 2 letters from the Navy since then. 3 letters. One to be standby status for Bay of Pigs.
Yep.
The other one is Bay of Pigs has been resolved. Don't worry about it. And the third one was my discharge papers.
Oh.
That was it.
So when you got out, you went to Pensacola, and then you came back to Michigan?
Come back to Michigan.
Okay.
Now, when I come back to Michigan, it was my understanding that my job had been kept for me.
Right.
That's one reason I had the opportunity to work in the print shop at the Mobile, Alabama Air Force Base. I was offered a job there and said, no, I'll go home because I got a job waiting for me.
Yeah.
When I got home, I found out my job was not waiting for me because I had to have 6 months and I only had 5 weeks and 3 weeks full time. So I didn't get that. But the boss come in and says, your job is still here. His name was Lauren Brown. And basically, he gave me my job back, but he gave 2 other people their notice that they were no longer there.
Oh.
One of them stayed in the printing trade. The other one left. And he did well. I mean, it was a good move for him. The other one was, you never know if he's come to work or not. So went to work then. And then over the years, I was able to get that 2-year period resolved as active duty, which is credit for working there. So basically, I worked 41 years.
Right.
Got credit for 43.
So you kept your seniority, essentially.
Kept my seniority.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you came back, what would have been 60?
I'll give you the date.
All right.
I reported aboard the ship on 21 January 1957.
Okay.
Okay. I left the ship on 14 of November of 1958, and I was back to work in December 1958.
Okay.
Met my wife in December 1958.
Well, so that's a great segue. Talk to me about meeting your wife.
One of my good friends introduced me. We're going back to church. My wife and I today are historians of the church, and up to the time that I had my stroke, I was doing a 5 minutes in history of the church. And one of the talks that I've got prepared, but I haven't done it yet because I'm going to start back up on that again, is how a lot of people say the decrease of churches today is because the churches aren't functioning right. You've probably heard that said by a number of people.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I've got another view. Things change. And the reason is that I become involved with the church when I was in high school. I played on the softball team for the church. I didn't play on the team because I was not good enough to play on the team, but I was on the team. Part of the stipulation was you had to go to church one Sunday a month. That brought me to church. A lot of them brought them to church. Not only did it bring them to church, but it brought their families to church. All right, look at it today. If you have a young child and they get involved, okay, my grandkids were involved with soccer. Their games are Sunday morning.
Right.
All right. They didn't go to church. Their parents didn't go to church. All right. At the time I was in high school, I was on the softball team.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get on a basketball team because I was only 95 pounds.
Right.
Right. But there was a basketball team, city leagues, and
Right.
both of those. I was on a bowling team. The bowling team had one guy that was 86, another one that was 72, another one was 50, another one was 50, and I was 16. That was the bowling team.
Yeah.
But you had to go to church on Sunday. I never joined the church until after I met my wife,
Mm-hmm.
although I went years. But I had one friend that set me up second or third week I was home with a blind date.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Judy. And we dated for about a year and a half, got married. We are the church now is Christ Community Church in Lansing, which is a block from the Capitol. It's one of the downtown churches.
Yeah.
It's in the original history-wise church blocks of the city of Lansing. There's 3 churches in that one block and one across the street. And the church itself, Judy and I were married in, we'll get in trouble here.
Yes, you are.
Anyway, when we were married, they had just done a restructure of a massive redo of some of the church.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first people to be married in that church. There were 2 of us same day. The other marriage just didn't last a year, but he was 80 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. And he, today at that church, Judy and I are the only married couple that was married in that church that's still there. The only ones. That's going to be part of my history. And I wanted to do that in the spring, and that's when I had my stroke. Because I wanted to have basically the reception like we had a reception, which was nothing more than cake and ice cream. Now it's a 5-course meal.
Oh, yeah. It's a big deal. It's a big
Things
deal
change.
now. So you've been married for what?
67 years.
67 years. Wow.
Yeah, 67 years.
Congratulations.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good. It's been bad.
So she's
Got
been
a good family.
So she's basically been with you since you got out of the Navy.
Basically,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There was we went to a movie. Yeah, and the language in that movie at that time was very bad. Today it's common.
Right.
What'd they say? Can't repeat it.
It was racy for that time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not expecting any calls. I'm getting a ton of calls on loan.
Uh-huh.
I apply for a loan.
No, those I get those all the time. It's,
I can tell the cheap ones are only $50,000. The other ones are $80,000.
right, exactly. Exactly.
But the church has been a big part. I know somebody approached me a couple weeks ago if I would do a talk on Fifth Sunday dinner, and if I would do a talk there on the AAA. And I said, no, that's not going to interest them. Especially, and what triggered that is the AAA that's
right.
now,
That's over there now.
and that's the third AAA, by the way. The other one was decommissioned a few years ago. So I'm thinking of, it wasn't too long I was back. They had a dinner, and I did a talk showing I took a lot of pictures in all water.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, I took a lot of pictures, and I did a talk for part of the talk. And then there was another gentleman by the name of Doug Frizz he just got out, and he did the Army portion. So I looked, Doug died 2 years ago. Didn't realize it. But I do a lot of research in that area.
Yeah.
And I just, back to there. So I'm talking to him now. I said, it depends on where we do it. We're doing some restructuring in a church, and where we would do it. I had to have an overhead because I have a full company of that. But I said, rather than do that, I would rather do one on Arlington Cemetery, which I've done a number of times. So, and even that one's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And that place has changed, but not enough that cemeteries don't change that much.
No, they don't.
No.
They don't. So how many children do you have?
2 children.
2 children. And did you have children right away, or did you wait for a while?
We had trouble.
Uh-huh.
We had trouble coming up with getting started.
Yeah.
And we had the 2 girls. One girl had 2 boys. The other one had 2 girls. One of the girls, as of last Friday, just gave us our second great grandchild.
So your family's grown.
Well, we're getting there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we still. Well, we used to go to Arizona, so I never took the tree down. Well, I still don't. And all the hooks on the walls, all that comes down, and there are sockets for everybody. Well, we discontinued that a couple of years ago, and basically because of the financial. I was putting $1,000 a year in the socks.
Yeah.
And so they decided, well, for Grandma and Grandpa, we're going to discontinue that. But a lot of stuff I got was freebies, so I did it for 2 more years, just giving away the stuff that I collected over the last couple of years.
That makes sense.
But we still have our Christmas here. We have basically 2 events that the family gets together, and it's Christmas and Mother's Day. But the family has moved out. We got one in Detroit. We got one in Saginaw area. And we got one in school at Michigan State, the younger granddaughter. And the oldest granddaughter lives in Grand Rapids area, Wyoming.
Okay.
And we're sitting at this table here 2 years ago, and we're playing trivia. I'm playing trivia with my grandkids, right? I got, basically, he's a lawyer researcher, but he graduated with honors out of Michigan State in constitutional interpretation, right? With honors out of James Madison. So he's pretty
smart.
And then a doctor who's a chiropractor, his wife, who was his teacher at school, she's the one who just had the baby, 2 engineers, and we're playing trivia down here, right?
Yeah.
I got one answer, and we're using the phone to trigger it, right? And I triggered that thing, and I knew the answer, knew it right away, went right in. I come in 3rd on that answer. And it was, okay, where's Gettysburg? I knew that one. I'm 3rd. I ain't playing with that bunch anymore. Only question I knew in the whole thing.
Those questions can be kind of difficult.
Oh, yeah, but man, I felt pretty good. They got one I know. I got this one.
Yeah.
3rd.
So when were your children born then? Were they born in the 60s?
70s.
60s, okay, 70s.
Well, yeah, 60s and 70s.
Okay, yeah.
They were involved with a drum and bugle corps. And later, I was boating. I'd like to kind of go through some of my activities afterwards because you can see my growth pattern.
Yeah. So let's go there then. So you came back, you got married, you're still working at Michigan State. So let's talk about.
Let's take a quick break.
Before we continue, we'd like to share a resource that may be helpful to veterans and their families. The Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org is designed to connect veterans with support, resources, and a community that understands their experiences. If you or a veteran you know could benefit from those resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app and learn more at vetlifetoday.org.
First one I got into was, at that time, CB radios were big. And I kind of got involved with a local CB group, and we did some things. And I learned there was a gentleman there who was a retired submariner, but he happened to be civil defense director at Lansing. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching him. I went up and I says, you're not a member. He says, no. But I said, I see you control the meetings by Robert's rules. He says, you notice that? And I said, oh, yeah. And he said, don't say anything. He actually controlled the meeting by what he said. And he would say things that would be wrong, but nobody there knew the difference.
Right.
So nobody challenged him.
Yeah.
That's good to remember. I just, there were 6 of us that got a little bit perturbed with some of the stuff they wanted to do. We formed our own group, and we called them CB Caravanners. And we set a set of rules that was impossible for anybody else to get involved, which was equipment in your car and first aid. And it wasn't just working first aid, it was advanced first aid. So I'm starting to get education. I had a friend that I worked with at that time, And him and I wanted something. This was even before I met Judy. From the time I got out of school until we got married. And he helped me. Basically, him and I wired this house. And he was one pretty sharp dude, but I worked with him. We would take night school classes in Lansing of anything that was just somewhere interesting, just to have something to do. We took a course in electronics, and Dave was a genius in electronics. And I did something here just 3 or 4 years ago, and the teacher that was teaching that class remembered me.
Oh.
Because he had come up and he says, where's David at now? I said, David passed away. But anyway, we took that for 2 years, and finally he come up and says, would you come in as my assistant in that class, the two of us? And so, but we took motor rewinding, we took radio electronics, we took basic electronics, just any course we could. We run out. There was a group in Lansing called Lansing Power Squadron, or it was at that time. Okay. Lansing Power Squadron was a boating education group. You're familiar with it?
My father-in-law was involved in the Power Squadron.
Lansing?
I believe so, yeah.
What's his name?
Dan Popoff.
I know him.
Yeah.
Oh, I know who he is.
Yeah.
Okay. You realize I'm past commander?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Small world.
I served as treasurer for 4 years. Dave served as secretary for 4 years. And they said, okay, you two, one of you's got to go up on a bridge. And I went up on a bridge. I served there. I am the oldest past commander in the squadron today. It's now called American Boating Club.
Okay.
I don't know anybody. I know 2 people there, right? All right. I've got certificates on the wall. Okay. 50-year member, past commander, 25-year member. So I got involved with that. But anyway, that's a 501c3.
Yeah.
Right? And it's education. I become commander, or what you would call president. That's one. Then from there, we boated out of up on White Lake. My kids were too involved. As they got a little bit older, we're sitting at a drum corps show, and my daughter said, boy, I sure like to do that. And at that time, there was a corps in Grand Rapids. I says, maybe another 2 years, we can get you down to Grand Rapids. You can be in that corps. She was at Saginaw 1 year later as a color guard. They were national VFW champions that year.
Wow.
Right. She served in that group for 9 years. Needless to say, Judy and I going to Saginaw. Even in some of those early years, I got involved with the band boosters at PW and worked them. I was president of their association for 3 years, 501c3. Went up to Saginaw. They were in 9 years. My wife and I ended up on the board, 501c3. Between the two of us, we were membership people in charge of membership. I become commander of the Eagles, which was their feeder corps. Okay, got another plaque for that one, 501c3. Right. From there, we got out of that, and I keep saying, what are you going to do when you're no longer involved? Because the kids aged out of corps.
Right.
And my oldest daughter was color guard instructor for St. John's for 20 years. Very much involved. And we were involved, and I still involved with the band to some degree. We got through with that. I joined, Judy's mother was into genealogy. All right, so if I'm taking her to the meetings, I'm going to be involved. I got on the board, ended up as president for 3 years. That's 501c3. At church, we're at church. I ended up being moderator, 501c3. Moderator is church president, 5. I've served on 9 different 501c3 boards, 5 of them as a lead person. All right. Power Squadron is where I grew up. I was treasurer for 4 years, and that was not an easy task because you're dealing with professors, you're dealing with doctors, you're dealing with lawyers, you're dealing with CPAs. All right, I'm treasurer and I'm dealing with CPA. We had to have our books monitored every year. Right. No actions were taken unless the membership voted on it outside of budget. I had to create the budgets. All right. You just don't learn that you learn it by association.
Yeah.
I ended up being in charge of Constitution or the bylaws. And the gentleman I worked with there was a fellow by the name of Irvin Grohl. And he happened to be a state legislator, but his specialty was bylaws. I learned from one of the best. I've worked on at least 5 or 6 different sets of bylaws. This is a kid that wouldn't go to the library in school.
Right.
Right. I've ended up with MMGS or the genealogy speaking. Power Squadron got me involved there because I ended up as district conference coordinator. Now, district was Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan, and I'm in charge of the whole thing. They had 2 conferences a year, 3-day conferences, and I was in charge of seeing those for, I think, 4 or 5 years. So I learned that trade kind of the hard way, Power Squadron, and with that, it was nothing for me. We had one conference in Detroit at the Pontchartrain Hotel. The band was Guy Lombardo.
Oh,
Did I tell you the magnitude of this?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't do the planning, but I oversaw it.
Right.
All right. So they had 600 people at that conference, 500 people at that conference. And I had to get up and make a report for the next one. When I got out of school, if I was with 4 or 5 people, I was afraid to talk. Power Squadron. I'll do it. So I say between the Navy and the Power Squadron. Power Squadron classes, there's one class called AP. There were 4 of us that took the exam. I was the only one to pass the exam. The reason is because I learned how to figure tide and currents the Navy way. I did not be able to, I could not show my paperwork doing the Power Squadron way, but I had the right answer. So I got most of the credit for it, and that was the answer that I passed it and the other ones didn't. Right? I've taught first aid to a class of 4. 2 out of the 4 were MDs, and I'm teaching first aid to them. Give me a break.
They might have known a few things, huh?
Yeah. It was very easy. I just passed on to them. Marlin's Blake. I've taught classes in Marlin's Blake. There was a book published that was donated to the MSU Museum, and they wanted a class or a group of Boy Scouts to come in to promote the book, and they wanted me to teach a class on Marlin's Blake seamanship. So, I did that. I was afraid to talk to myself in the mirror when I got out of high school. You grow when you're ready to grow.
Right. And all thankful to your military and your sea background.
Now, military, let's go back. I was out probably 15, 20 years, and I found out, I called a buddy of mine. He says, "You're going to the reunion." I said, "What reunion?" He says, "Well, they have a reunion. It started about 5 years ago." Okay. The last thing I did when I was on the AAA is I edited a newspaper.
Oh, so you had that's really neat.
All right. Now, I did 2 of them, but they weren't doing it when I first went on board. So I found one that somebody had done, went through, figured out the type, how much space and everything, put the thing together as far as what it would go. When Brooklyn Air Force Base, which was our home port, had a print shop. And that's how I got involved with them, right? And I would put it together. When we come back, we stopped at Mayport. I got off at Mayport with the captain didn't trust a seaman.
Right.
So he had the chaplain. And the chaplain didn't do anything but say, "Bill, is that okay?" "Okay, we're done." Anyway, we got off at Mayport. We flew from Mayport to Brooklyn Air Force Base in Mobile, a home port. And I stayed there in Air Force lodging, lived like an Air Force, and went over there every day. They did the typesetting. I put the layout together. They printed it. When the ship come aboard, I went aboard with the newsletters. And like I say, there's only 2 of them. So I did that, walked aboard the ship. They says, Captain wants to see you. I went up with him on my arm. He said, I want to see the newsletter. I showed him the newsletter. He said, pack your bags. You got to be in Pensacola tomorrow morning for separation. He said, I got a very nasty letter. All right. When I got involved with the alumni group, I went a couple of years, and they had a newsletter. And the gentleman's name was Bob Hurley, but the problem was he was going blind. So I took it over. I edited that one, the last one of the ship.
Yeah.
And I edited that one for 20 years.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's really cool.
And then not only that each year at the reunion, I produce one reunion book.
Oh, so the reunion book is more it's got colors and this is nice.
So I've got those for about 20 years.
Uh-huh.
There's also copies in the library of Fort Wayne of that, and because it gives you names of people and that type of thing.
Right.
But it tells you the very last reunion we had. First one I went to, we had 170 some people. Last one we went to, we had 32, and we've lost a couple since then. It got down. We didn't have a chairman of the board, but we had a board, and everybody on the board had their function. And it boiled down to we had the newsletter editor, which is myself, and a fellow by the name of Joe Parker, who I basically appointed as treasurer. And he died 4 months ago. And so we no longer have those reunions.
Yeah.
And I miss those. That's the reason I have a sweatshirt, I have shirts, I have hats,
Right.
But with that, I've learned 501c3s. I've learned how to work with people. I've voiced for attorneys. We have a problem at church, and I says, I didn't know how to do that, but I know who could. And that was the appointment thing. And we got a person right now that wants to, she's it. And I said, hey, that's not good for us. But because of the squadron, you see I got 2 lone sailors?
Yeah.
They only give out 4. I can do out of the 4. So, no, I feel pretty proud of my accomplishments. I feel that I've grown. I'm still doing genealogy. Now, I've got it, I put it on a chair. I got the Quill of Honor here from Delta about 3 months ago. And the gal who presented it says, I made it. And I said, what was your maiden name? She says, Spitzley. I said, my son-in-law's a Spitzley. I'm not related to her, but my grandson is 4th cousin.
Oh.
I've been working on their generation. I'm over back to 1600.
Yeah.
On her family. So I've done a lot of genealogy. I've done a lot of talking don't bother me anymore. So, but it did.
It's a big change.
Oh yeah.
Big change over time.
Yeah. And it started with the Navy.
Yeah.
It definitely started with the Navy.
Yeah.
First episode, we were in Pennsylvania. They sent us from Pennsylvania to New Orleans to meet the ship. The ship was still in one of our trips. And so we were at the Air Force Base in New Orleans, which is a huge base, but it was a recruiting center too. But it's in Algiers, which is across the river from New Orleans. And we got off the plane, and we were able to take the public transit, which was kind of like a bus type thing. We got that in. Well, then we had to cross the river on a boat.
Oh, like a barge kind of thing?
Yeah, well, yeah, it was, no, I was trying to think of what they would call them. Transferring people back and forth.
Ferry.
We got on a ferry.
Ferry boat.
We got on the other side of the river. Now, they had 3, and they put us all on one set of orders. So on that one set of orders, they give the orders to one person. So, okay, you're leading the detail. You make the decisions for the detail. And that's one of the problems that I have is no matter what I've been in, I don't want to make the final decision. I want a group or team. And so we got on the other server. We had a fellow by the name of Aaron Brown, a black fellow. I grew up in a black neighborhood. I didn't have any problem with that. Another one, his name was Bobby Reynolds, and Bob was out of Pennsylvania, and myself. They give me the orders. So, okay, do not separate. So we got on the side of the river. We go up to a cab. We can't take you because you got a black person with you. Now, I've never had a problem with racism. One of my best buddies was his name was Brown. I mean, he had a brother they named a street after in Lansing, because he was active in the black movement at that time. I had no problem. I went, school, and I was only one of 3 white kids. But anyway, Brown, we can't take you because you got a black guy. So that's okay with me. Went over to a white cab. We can't take you because you tried to go in that other cab. Next thing I know, they're all coming after us. Not all, but there's some coming after us with tire items. I says, I was smart enough that I know that this isn't good. Right. So they said, what are you going to do? Bill's in tears, crying. I said, what are you going to do? I said, go back on the ferry. Got on the ferry, went on the other side, found a shore patrol, told them the story. They said, okay, put their vehicle on the ferry, took us across, and they took us out to the base. That's how we got to the base. But I'm thinking to myself, this is the Navy.
Right.
First bad thought, but not too many.
Yeah.
Not too many. And Bob Reynolds, I still communicate with him every once in a while. And had a good life.
So you worked, you said 43 years at Michigan State. So you retired
I retired in 2000.
In 2000, okay. Talk to me about that. What was that like after having been there and really, I mean, you grew up there basically. What was it like to retire?
Very easy. Retirement was easy. My retirement was in Breslin. And in the basement in Breslin. And, and I've got, it wasn't too long. I'm going through things now and remembering.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through my retirement and I'm looking there. There was one office out there at that time was Office of Information Services. Everybody in that office come to my retirement. There was a fellow by the name of Keith Williams. Keith Williams ended up being director of alumni, but I knew him long before that. At that time, he was in alumni relations. And I can remember, and this is when I was consultant going around, but my job was going around campus. The only job in the print shop that got out of the office.
Yeah.
And I would go around campus, and I'd say, well, I'm going to go to alumni. I went in and I said, I'd like to see Keith. And at that time, he was a director, and he's a black man. Yeah, very, very neat guy. And he says he's on the phone. I says, I'll wait. So I'm sitting there, and about 10 minutes went by, and he's still on the phone. She gets on the phone. Keith, there's a gentleman out here to see you. And he said, who is it? It's Bill Atkinson. Oh, okay, well, send him in. So I'm in the phone. I get in there, and he's talking to his wife. And guess who just come in the office? It's Bill. Because I had went to hockey banquets, a few things. Yeah. She is a provost from UConn at that time. He had been there and then come back. But she was the provost of UConn. And he's saying, Bill's here. I'm here. Hold on a minute. He was in my retirement. He was one of them there. I'm going through, and some of the people, I know there were some people there that didn't sign. But that was a full afternoon program. I got a picture or a statue of Sturdy on my front stoop. I don't know if you saw it.
Saw that when I was walking up.
That was one of my retirement programs. Yeah. The other one was $200 to a trip for airline tickets towards a trip to England. And yeah, I did for a while. I retired, and at that time, because I was in printing, I knew the printers in Lansing. I knew the presses they had in Lansing. I knew the capability of those presses. If that shop did not have the capability of printing the job I want, they didn't get a bid.
Right.
I only had to get 3 bids. And I would bid according to that. 2 stories. I had one that we used to print when I was in Kellogg Center. They took all my equipment, all my employees over to the main shop, but they couldn't do that job. because they didn't have the equipment or the empire. And the same thing they took from mine and took it over. So I bid it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I bid it out, and I sent it to a guy by the name of Joe LaFleur, who had his own print shop. He was the winning bid. And I would go quite often on a Friday to the different shops to find out, okay, what jobs I had to progress, if there were any problems. And, okay. And I went in, Joe, and he's printing my job. I saw him doing it. And he says, it's coming really well. We're going to get it done. I said, you're only on chapter 4. He says, don't worry, Bill. It'll get done. I said, okay. And so then I went to my second shop, and it was Gardner Printing. And I went in there. Jerry, what are you printing? He said, well, I'm helping Joe out on a job. He had that in 3 different print shops.
Yeah.
I was putting it together. I did it with one, but I shifted my hours so that I had somebody working on a job 24 hours a day. And I got it done. But anyway, the job got done. We never did do that in the print shop there. They had 38 employees. I had 5. They had the same 5. Well, they were the ones that filed the lawsuit. And so I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is something. After I retired, I'm sitting kind of bored for the first 2 or 3 weeks,
Right.
And I'm going through the paper looking for jobs. So, press operator, Millbrook Printing, phone number, recognize the phone number. I called, I got on the phone. Now, all I said is, sir, I just read in the paper you got an ad for an offset press operator night shift. I says, can you tell me something about the job? You want to know what my answer was?
What?
Bill, you don't want the job. I never told him who it was.
Right.
Yeah, Bill, you don't want the job.
Yeah.
But I had calls from a few. I had a call from Texas wanting to know, did you go to state at all? You familiar with state?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you remember the answer sheets, which were the digital? And you had
I remember.
Okay, well, I printed those. I was the only place in the United States, there's only one place in the United States that printed those things because of the accuracy. Over a 5-year program, I developed a program where we could print them on campus. I printed those by the thousands, right? And I did it on a web press. I got a call from Texas. How do you do that? I said, okay, first of all, it's ink. What do you mean? I says, well, there's some ink that's reflective and some ink that's not. Well, how do you know that? I said, I worked with a company to do that. It took me 2 years. Get the right inks. I said, now the next thing to do is accuracy, because them little black squares have got to be in exactly the right place.
Right.
How you do that? And I said, I run them on a web. Oh, what kind of web? And I told him on it. And I said, well, you do it. He says, there's a lot of waste. I said, yeah, a lot of waste, but I still saved a lot of money. The machine that I run that on, the web press, won 50,000 sheets an hour.
Wow, that's incredible.
I threw a lot of paper away. I mean, I was throwing paper away. Those big boxes, I could fill 2 or 3 of them a day. But I was printing 200,000 or 300,000, over that period of time. But I went from that. I did everything but pre-press. Press room manager to, like I say, I was at the right place at the right time. At the time that I was the purchasing agent and we had all those college educated, I was one of the top 2 or 3 in pay. I happened to be at the right place at the right time and talked with the right people.
Yeah.
So, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah. Sometimes it's luck, and sometimes it's skill, or sometimes it's a combination of both.
But something had to trigger it.
Right.
And it was when I left home.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And that's the reason I felt with this right here, great deal of pride. And that's probably the biggest thing that I heard on now, because there's just no. I maintain the national database. I got 1,800 names. I got less than 200 still alive because they were World War II.
Right.
I had one 2 years ago, 104 years old, because a lot of them were World War II. Big crews were World War II. And some of the history, I got some books on the history that mention Larson for one.
Yeah.
And
so since retirement, then you've been actively involved with which is key, right? Like if you retire, you got to do something.
That's one of the big problems that I'm having. It's probably my biggest problem right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going through I decided when we come back from Arizona, we come back with a pod,
Mm-hmm.
and it was full. All right, so I've got 2 collections of things.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I got a box of towels that we had down there. Well, we got towels, so we're trying to purchase stuff. So I got that, but the big thing is that I had a small shed, and that was my tools down there. And I had built and done some things down there, and I had plumbing work, and I had plumbing thing, electrical work, and so I decided I'm trying to put this together. And I've found some tools in 5 different locations.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get them together. Screws and bolts. I got this nice little box, and I got this little box, and they got the same thing in them. Well, there's not room. I'm merging when I can.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got in the back, and there's some boxes in the back. I found 2 parts to a car. One was an extension to a tailpipe, and the other one is a cable trunk opener. Now, this is before they had the modern stuff,
Right.
All these things were in, I think, the second car that I ever owned, and that was a junior in high school. And a box in there.
So you kept a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, I got junk around here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm filling my junk container pretty much every week now.
Right.
And throwing like our nuts and bolts. I have got some lead anchors in there that were my uncle's.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle died in the 40s. They're almost, those lead anchors, and I still use them today, are probably 100 years old.
Yeah.
I got some nails in there that are square.
Oh, yeah.
And well, he was working with the theaters in Paramount, and I inherited all but his good tools.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad sold those.
So now you're just trimming down. You're
I'm
figuring out what you need and what you don't need.
And well, I'm not even to that stage. I'm putting some away, and that'll be my next time I go through.
Yep.
I have a stack like that of printing plates.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a press in Lansing now that will run those, And we got. I wasn't the nicest guy in the world either.
But we've covered a lot. We've been talking for about an hour and 20 minutes,
Good.
And you have lived quite an interesting life.
I thought so, but I still feel I'm more interested in military now than I have been for years.
Yeah.
And I'm watching what's going on. I'm still involved with trying to figure out. I got 2 more pieces there that don't fit on the wall, but they're swagger sticks.
Yeah.
And that he made those at trench art. And I went through trench art, and I don't find anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
So it's kind of the next chapter for you then, is kind of doing this military history stuff then.
Yeah, well, what I found out is the database I had for my genealogy died.
Uh-huh.
So I've got to re-input basically all that. And I don't know if I want to do any more talks,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the books I have are nothing but the talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ask you 2 questions.
Yeah.
And I bet you can't give me the right answer to
All
either
right.
one.
Let's
All
try.
right. Who owned Arlington before it became a cemetery?
Thomas Jefferson? Who?
Give you a clue. He was U.S. Army. Ended up being head of the Confederate forces. But that's the answer people are giving me. Robert E. Lee.
Uh-huh.
Robert E. Lee didn't own it. His wife did.
Oh.
His wife was granddaughter of George Washington.
Oh.
And she inherited it from Washington. All right. John Brown. You know who John Brown is? The activist in the Civil War?
Yes.
Okay. He was captured. Who led the team that captured him from the U.S. Army?
I wouldn't even venture a guess on
Robert
that.
E. Lee.
Oh.
And I've got 10 questions that I will answer during my talk.
Uh-huh.
And that's 2 of them, but the names are over here. Well, they look at Robert E. Lee. They always pick Robert E. Lee, and it went the other way. Because since that time, he left the U.S. Army to become Confederate.
Right.
And I have more fun with that question. And how many white crosses is there in Arlington National Cemetery?
I do not know. 2.
Kennedy and his brother. How many white crosses are there in national cemeteries in the United States?
Just those 2, huh?
the National Cemetery in Hawaii had white crosses. They were all removed before they come states.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all the straight the stone on the thing. And that's another question that I have on there is,
Those are great questions.
oh yeah. I have a ball with that
Yeah.
talk. I've done one called Grandfather's Trunk.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the attic, okay, things you'll find in the attic that might apply to your genealogy. One of them is dog tags.
Yeah.
They come back, they put them up there in the storage in the attic. But that gives you something as part of their life story. Just another one. I've got another one there. People collect, I don't have this as a question, but people collect various things.
Mm-hmm.
You hear anybody collected toilet paper?
No.
I know somebody. Collected every country they went to, they got a copy or a sample of their toilet paper and they kept it. And her son ended up being one of the top historians in Lansing, which I kind of learned. I went to school with his sister
Mm-hmm.
and got to know that he was one of my better friends. In fact, was a pallbearer for his uncle over the years. This is a kid that in high school would hide in a closet so nobody would see him.
Mm-hmm.
That's you grow when you're ready to grow.
Yeah, things change.
And things
People
change.
change.
So hopefully I've given you something.
You have, but I do have one more question for you.
Okay.
And that is, if someone is watching this or listening to this 100 years from now,
I'll be glad to answer.
Yes, and they they've learned about your life, and we've had this great conversation. But what message would you like to leave for people? What piece of advice would you give for folks?
Always learn. Always learn. You're never too old to quit learning.
All right. Well, thank you for that. And thanks for taking time out of your morning to talk with me. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
no, I enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to the Veterans Archives podcast and for helping us honor the service and sacrifice of our nation's veterans. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with others so more people can hear these important stories. To learn more about our mission, watch additional veteran interviews, or find out how to record a veteran story, please visit veteransarchives.org. And if you or a veteran you know needs support or resources, we encourage you to download the Battle Buddy app from vetlifetoday.org. You can also hear Veterans Archives on Reads Across America Radio every Thursday at 5 p.m.